going to take a look at Johnny Depp. But first we're going to do an energetic wash, and today I've chosen for Johnny Depp Saturn. So if you'd like to receive that energy, just be open to it. If not, just say no thanks. And I'm going to go ahead and start that. That Saturn wash will last for about 9 minutes and shut off automatically. So the purpose around that is to help you if you're having difficult Saturn transits, or if you have a difficult aspect of Saturn in your chart, as Johnny Depp does. And quite a few people actually that I see or that I look at have these kind of Saturn challenges. So let's get started with Johnny Depp. He has Leo rising, which is the showman, right, and is ruled by the sun. Leo rising and ruled by the sun in Gemini in the 11th house. The rising sign is our personality. We project out to the world, but also how we view the world and also our physical body. So the ruler of the sign on the cusp of the ascendant becomes the chart ruler. In his case, it's that sun in the 11th house, which is humanitarian. It deals with the greater public and is a communicator in Gemini. So the first house being the physical body and the personality. You take into account also planets that are in the first house. In his case, he has Mars, Uranus in the first house, which is quite a combo. They're in Virgos. They might be toned down a little bit. Virgo seeks perfection. He's very driven, not just the first house, but also like his 6th house of health and work. He has quite a strong work ethic. But Mars is our drive, our force out into the world. In Virgo, it seeks perfection, right? But with Uranus sitting next to it, you never know what he's going to do. Like, I feel like he's probably someone that when he's doing a movie, if something doesn't feel quite right to him, he just ad-libs lines maybe. He just does whatever he wants. And he's got a really good instinct for doing that. But it surprises people. Uranus in the first is the person you never know what's going to come out of their mouth, and you never know what they're going to do. So his personality is a little bit erratic, I would say. Yeah. That Uranus in the first, and the Mars, square Venus and Mercury up in the 10th house of career. So there's a lot of energy around it. But anytime Uranus makes aspects to Mercury, it's a potential sign of genius. So he's got really good instincts, and that is part of the reason that I say that is because of that Uranus-Mercury square in the 10th. Also, Mercury squares Venus in the 10th. What is that? Venus is women, right? But it's appeal to women. Like their women are tapping into him through that Uranus-Mars in the first. Which Uranus is like sparkle and Mars is like sex appeal. So there's something about him. It's not a classic, oh, I'm so handsome. It's an energetic thing. It's a smolder. It's a smolder. Because Pluto, which is down in his second, it's the guy with his arms raised up there, is squaring his sun in the 11th. And that has the feeling of like a scorpionic kind of energy to have Pluto square the sun. He's quite hot-tempered. Yeah. But he's intense is what it is. So they're picking up on the Uranus, the Mars, and the Pluto for different reasons, for different aspects that are happening up to the 10th in the 11th house. But there's a smolder there. You know what a smolder is. The second house is traditionally called the house of money, but also our self-esteem, our self-worth, anything we value, and our valuables, right? And Pluto there, anywhere Pluto is the ability to transform. So it's making, his Pluto in the second house is making a positive aspect to his midheaven of career up the top of the chart. He has the ability to transform financially. It's really like however much money he wants to make, he can make it in his life. Like he has that ability to manifest, to transform his situation if he ever gets in a situation that he doesn't like. But Pluto in the second suggests that he needs to do deep healing around self-esteem issues from childhood or whatever. And there's other aspects that kind of suggest the same thing. I don't know, like I haven't read a biography or anything on him, but there's that idea that his childhood was challenging at best. And affected his self-esteem in some way. There's a feeling with the Mars-Uranus in the first, and Pluto square the Sun, Mars-Uranus square Mercury-Venus, that he's got something to prove. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's nice to have trines and sextiles and things in our chart, but it doesn't give us the gumption to get up and do anything. It's when we have squares and challenges that we actually get up and move and do something. And so there's this real feeling with him that he had something to prove. And he was very driven, Mars in the first, to prove it, to get out there and do it. So yeah, that Pluto in the second is also, it's making a flowing aspect to his moon, a challenging aspect to his sun. The flowing aspect to the moon's our emotional nature. And Pluto's the ability to transform. So this is what he can change costumes or makeup or facial expressions, and he looks like a totally different person. He has this ability to transform, to shift the mood of a situation, if you will. The third house is typically called the house of communication, but it also includes short trips, motor vehicles, brothers and sisters, elementary school. The ruler is Venus up in the 10th, suggesting that he'll be communicating third house with the public 10th house, in a very public position, right? With the ruler of his chart, which is the sun, in the 11th of the broader public, and then the ruler of his third house of communication and his second house of money, for that matter, are both up in the 10th. Suggesting, it's through career that he does his communicating. He might actually be kind of an introvert at home. It's through his career that he does his communicating. The fourth house is the childhood home. It's also what we inherit. It's our genetic line. It's home. And he has Scorpio on the cusp of it. The ruler is Pluto in the second. And this is the reason that I alluded to the fact that he, something that happened in childhood has affected his self-esteem. Self-esteem second, fourth house, childhood home. So, yeah, that's why. The other thing is that Neptune, that's very nebulous, is in the fourth house in Scorpio. This could suggest some skeletons in the closet in the childhood home, like something happened that nobody knows about, or with it being Neptune, it could be either a drug or alcohol addicted parent or a very spiritual parent. Those are the two ends of Neptune. And I don't know, so I'm just gonna say that. But yeah, Scorpio's on the cusp of the fourth. The ruler is Pluto. Pluto's conjunct Mars and Uranus, which suggests with Mars some violence, as does Pluto for that matter, and Uranus some moving around, or the home not being stable, that kind of thing. The fifth house has Sagittarius on it. The ruler is Jupiter in Aries up in the 9th. The ruler of the fifth house of children, creativity, what we produce, being Jupiter. I mean, it suggests, a lot of film, a lot of movies, potentially a lot of children or benefiting from having children. That bringing light into your life, having children, that kind of idea. In Aries, that Jupiter's in Aries in the 9th house. He's a philosopher, and he probably brings that into raising children, but also making movies. And then the ruler of Jupiter, because it's in Aries, is Mars, which is in the 1st. So this stuff's very important to him. The 6th house is service. It's day-to-day work. He has Capricorn on the cusp of the 6th house, and that's why I said he's a hard worker. The Mars in Virgo in the 1st house is the perfectionist, right? But Capricorn on the cusp of the 6th is the person who just, it takes a lot of responsibility for their work, personal responsibility for their work. So he's a hard worker, and his moon is there in Capricorn. So your moon is what you need to feel emotionally okay in a situation. And he needs to work. He needs to be of service in some way. And he needs to be productive because it's Capricorn. And they climb to get to where they're going. And Capricorn rules big corporations and stuff. So the feeling of it is, I need to be very successful at what I do. Because the moon is not particularly happy in Capricorn. And I asked when I saw the chart, what does he need emotionally? And so what I heard was, because sometimes I hear voices in my head, what I heard was it's the polarity that he actually needs. And the polarity point for Capricorn is Cancer. So he wants love very much. And he wants to be in a relationship, and it's important to him. And he wants to be snuggled. He wants that Cancerian kind of energy. But sometimes he puts off the Capricorn kind, which is more like, I'm guarding my heart. I'm guarding my heart. I'm guarding my heart. His South Node is in the 6th house, and the South Node is where we come from, and the North Node is what we're to aspire to, what we're to add to our life in this life, what we're supposed to develop. So we fall back into our South Node to feel comfortable. That's where we feel comfortable, and for him that's work. For him that's service. He has to stretch himself to get into his North Node, which is about nurturing because it's in Cancer, and it's about the collective because it's in the 12th house. So, he has this desire to like close off his heart and not be too personal, but to live in his fullness, he needs to open up emotionally to the collective, be more open with those emotions. It's just like the way his chart looks, kind of with his childhood and stuff, but also with relationships. He's challenged to open his heart a little bit at this juncture. Now, right now, his South Node is 22 degrees of Capricorn. Right now in transit, Pluto is at 22 degrees of Capricorn, sitting right on his South Node in the 6th house. Now, Pluto takes 248 years to get around the chart. So, I mean, it was only in his 2nd house when he was born. He's 57 years old, and it's made it up to his 6th. Like, it doesn't move very quickly. So the impact of it being right on a point or a personal planet, pretty big. But the suggestion here with Pluto in the South Node, because the South Node is where we release, and the North Node is where we take in. The South Node is where we release. But there's some of that rigidity of Capricorn that he needs to release right now at this point in his life. And it may be about control, Capricorn or Saturn, in his work, potentially. Control of his work? I don't know, because I'm not sure what's going on in his life right now, but to have Pluto on the South Node is really significant. It suggests a big shift for him around things that are karmic. The nodal axis is karmic. So there's some change or transformation that's going to happen with Johnny Depp, like right now. Like now, as we're talking about him. Sometime this year, will there be a noticeable transformation of either how he does his work or what types of jobs he takes or something like that. And I know he always takes different kinds of projects because he loves to morph. He loves to morph into these different characters. That's his genius. With Uranus squaring Mercury and Venus up in the 10th house, his genius is being able to completely personify these different characters. So look for some kind of change, though. It's going to happen. He has Aquarius on the cusp of the 7th. The ruler is Uranus in the 1st house, conjunct or sitting next to Mars and Pluto, for that matter. This suggests really volatile relationships, like hard to settle down in a relationship. And I think he's had some of that, had multiple partners. The funny thing about it, though, is that he has Saturn in the 7th, and Saturn really has a big respect for traditional marriage. You know, I want to be married, I want a partner. But he has such a hard time pulling that off. Relationships seem to be pretty volatile for him. He has a hard time feeling loved because that Saturn in the 7th squares that Venus up in the 10th. You know, that's how he gets his accolades, is through his work, 10th house, through his career. But he has a hard time getting it personally. So in all of that, any kind of Saturn-Venus situation, or a moon with Saturn, or moon in Capricorn, because it's the same kind of energy, actually, because the moon in Capricorn, it's ruled by Saturn. Saturn rules Capricorn. So when we have like our love lights, our Venus and our moon in aspect to Saturn or in Capricorn, it can feel like really hard to receive the love that people are trying to give us. We come in with kind of that expectation. What the ask is for the soul in a situation like that is to learn to love yourself, to learn to accept yourself exactly as you are. You know, the full embrace of the self. You know, and he has the ability to do that because he has Pluto, which is transformation, in his 2nd house of self-esteem. But, you know, a lot of his life has been spent getting his accolades or his love or whatever through his career. But a big ask for him is to learn how to get that from in here. So that's going on. So I hope that he gets there, because as he does, he'll be able to then draw in a relationship that maybe isn't quite so volatile. With Aquarius on the cusp of the 7th, he needs a lot of freedom in relationship. He wants to feel secure with Saturn, but he also needs freedom because Aquarius is on the cusp of the 7th. And he's likely to date or marry, different types of women, different types. So the 5th house is actually like romance, somebody I'm just dating, and he has Sagittarius on the cusp of that, which is ruled by Jupiter, so it suggests like he's dated lots and lots of women. But the 7th house is traditional marriage, like when you sign the papers, and he has Aquarius there, and that suggests some real like offbeat, like he could date someone really younger and then date someone really older, and you know, somebody with an interesting different personality or just different types of women he would tend to marry. It's not going to be a cookie cutter thing, you know, it's not Stepford Wives where they all look the same. It's going to be different. The 8th house is, you know, traditionally called sex, death, and taxes, right? But it is the occult. It is deeper spirituality. It is where we merge. It's intimacy and relationship. It's the partner's money. You know, there's all kinds of things in all of these houses. So it's just a matter of finding, like, how is that working for that person? The sign on the cusp of his 8th house is Pisces. Anytime you see a water sign on the cusp of the 8th house, you're looking at someone who really wants close intimacy, desires that. Above all else, you know, the desire to merge, which is Pisces, Neptunian, where I've lost myself in the other person, right? And it's really beneficial for him because that thing in the 8th house, the circle with the like cross in the inside, is an Arabic part, and it's called the part of fortune. There's a very much the idea that he would benefit from that kind of intimacy if he could get there and not close his heart, Capricorn moon. But also, you know, the 8th house is other people's money. If the 2nd house is ours, the 8th house is others. So there's an idea here with the part of fortune there that he benefits through the support of others, which he does. People pay money to go and see his movies. the little key looking thing is Chiron, which is the wounded healer. And the 8th house is like depth psychology. It suggests there's a deep wound to his sensitivity, Pisces. I don't even want to say what's in my head. It might be around sexuality at some point. Or, you know, there's some wound there. What's happening? It's opposing Pluto in the 2nd of self-worth. So I don't know if maybe he was rejected at a young age by somebody and that set him on course to like try to prove to the world how dead sexy he is. And I think he's done a really good job. Just saying. The 9th house, higher spirituality. It is the law, publishing, foreign countries. He may even enjoy foreign women with Jupiter being the ruler. Jupiter's in the 9th, but it's the ruler of the 5th house of like romance. So the idea that he might enjoy finding romance in that way. Yeah. I'm seeing him in Paris doing something. I don't know why. In my head, sometimes I get pictures. His midheaven is Venus. Is Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, which sits next to Mercury in the 10th house in Taurus. And Taurus is sensuousness. Taurus is the finer things in life. It's good food, good wine. It's sensuous. It's, the way things taste or the way they smell or the way they feel. And I feel like to have his midheaven of career in the sign of Taurus and Venus, which rules Taurus, Venus is in its own sign there, next to Mercury, that's how he gets into character. I'm goosebumping now, so it must be right. That's how he gets into character. He feels his way in. Oh my God, that's so weird. So what I'm hearing is like he starts to smell like the person he's playing. He starts to like look like he literally morphs into them in a really odd way. But it's his genius. So, hey, giddy up. The 11th house is traditionally called the house of friends, but it's also future goals. It's the broader public. He has the sun there. He may feel compelled to do something for humanity, right? The 11th house in his chart is Gemini, right? But in a natural wheel that starts with Aries, like the natural wheel, it's the Aquarian house. So it's like, I want to do something for humanity. So there may be that urge within him. I don't know if he's associated with any charities. But there's some part of him that feels that's necessary. And yeah, we talked about the fact that he has Sun square Pluto, right? Oh, Jupiter back in the 9th is squaring his moon. This expands his emotional range. So even though he kind of like maybe hides it from people in personal relationships a little bit, moon in Capricorn, he can get through all the emotional ranges. Like he knows how to get there. This is an amazing actor. This is the chart of an amazing actor because he becomes it. He completely immerses himself and he becomes it emotionally, physically, in every way. I mean, I literally heard in my head he starts to smell like them, which is the weirdest thing I have ever heard. But hey, the sign Gemini is on the cusp of the 11th house of friends, and the ruler is Mercury in the 10th, suggesting his friends he mostly meets through his career. Don't we all, right? The 12th house is the subconscious. It's what's hidden. It's the collective. His North Node is there, which we talked about, doing some nurturing for the collective, which I think he does through his art. But with Cancer there, and it's on the cusp of the 12th, and the ruler is the moon in Capricorn in the 6th, rules his 12th house, he actually emotionally, he needs to withdraw to his own space in order to like recuperate. He's such a like a hard worker and a perfectionist, and he's got all that energy with Mars and Uranus in the first, that I feel like it's so important for him to rest, especially as he's getting older. He needs to like take it easy. Oh, that's what I was thinking earlier. Like, it isn't just Pluto on his south node, like in transit right now in his 6th house. He also has Saturn and Jupiter, because we have that conjunction in the sky right now. For him, it's going through his 6th house. So Pluto's about transformation and Saturn's about structure. When those planets are in your 6th, transiting through your 6th, you need to regenerate physically. So anything that you haven't done, haven't taken care of as far as your health goes or whatever, it's your opportunity to improve your health, but actually transform your health. Because it can go one or two ways. You can either like start breaking down through that period where your health is just going to be severely challenged and you're just going to break down into old age, or you can completely like start eating right, start taking care of yourself, and you have the willpower with Saturn going through there to actually do it, to accomplish it. So that's some of what he's going through right now. I have the same thing because I also have Leo rising, and I just lost 40 pounds. Because I found out on my birthday that my numbers were all bad, and I'm like, I don't want to age that way. I don't need to be bouncing around, but I also don't want to like be all crippled up. So I'm like, yeah, I got to take charge of this, and I've been totally able to have a lot of willpower around it, even though normally I don't. So I think that's part of that. Yeah. So let's see if there's any other aspects I want to look at. Saturn trines the sun. And again, that's just the idea that he has all this discipline. But I think we talked mostly about the rest of these, so I am going to let that go. If there's somebody that you'd like me to do, you can let me know in the comments. Please subscribe, like, share. Have a great night. Bye.